The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on a break!
with Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Monday, September 30th, 2024, Season 20, Episode number 38. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We are presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at LG.com/OLED Evo. All right, let's talk today. We're going to do a quarter recap, first quarter recap. It is not the first quarter of the game, but the first quarter of the season that we will be recapping.
Why are you looking at me, Bryan?
We're going to recap the first quarter of the season. We're just going to say that. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have some names.
No, I'd really like to hear Ambar's first quarter recap
of the game.
Okay, for those who are like, what the heck is going on? Right before the start of the show, Derek is like, okay, for the show, we're going to recap the first quarter. And then that was that. And then in my head, I'm like, wait, of the game? Like, what are we doing? Like, that sounds like an awful show. Why are we recapping the first quarter of the game? And he's like, no, it's of the first quarter of the season. Come on. I'm like, okay, relax. Okay. Let's just do the show.
All right, so we're relaxed now.
We're relaxed.
Yes.
Ready
And we're
to
going to talk about the first quarter of the season. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about some injuries. But once we get to the to the first quarter of the season, I'll have some questions for you guys. I have some player evals, too. I have some names that I want to just get you guys to give me an opinion on what you think of their first quarter of
Hunter
the
Lipkey,
season.
outstanding.
And we'll go through some of those. Hopefully hit some names that we haven't talked about as much for folks, just to give them an idea of where everyone is. But let's start first with the news that really has been the most predominant news for the Cowboys ever since the game. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence both going to miss time. Both have injuries. Bryan, what do we know about their injuries, and what do we know at this point, or what are we surmising at this point with regard to the amount of time they'll miss?
Okay, I could tell you the amount of time. How about that? Does that work?
That works
for you
for
guys?
me. Works
All
for
right.
me.
You're probably not going to get Micah back until after the bye. That's
So you
kind
got
of where
two games.
You've
got
and then you got the Pittsburgh game. You've
Steelers
got
and
this
the
game.
Lions.
The Pittsburgh game. You got the Detroit game. You got a bye, and then now you're looking to potentially get him back at that spot
For the 49ers.
for the 49ers. When you look at the injury to Tank, and I know that Todd Archer is reporting a Liz Frank injury, which is a foot injury, which Todd is very accurate on this stuff. So I would trust exactly what he's saying there. All right, now, when you ask people in the building about this, they said they really don't know a firm timetable. They probably won't know for a good 2 weeks. And then we'll see how it goes. But they were thinking that 4 weeks on this thing was very optimistic. So this thing's going to likely go longer than 4 weeks is what they're looking at right now. So that's kind of what your timetable. Micah, closer to being, the 3 weeks, and then Tank, we'll see what happens, after an evaluation of 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But it sounds like that one's going to be pretty significant, and maybe 6 weeks if you're really betting on it.
Yeah. When you look at this team and what's happened since last season, where they allowed two of their defensive ends, Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler, to both leave in free agency.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't want to be a revisionist history guy. I think back at the time, I was like, for the amount of money they're that's going to cost, I'm comfortable with the Cowboys letting them walk. But obviously, you didn't predict this. You got those two guys gone. Then you get to training camp, you lose Sam Williams. At this point, you got Marshawn Nealon, but what else do you have, and how do the Cowboys recover and make this go without these two defensive ends?
Yeah, I think there should be a little bit of confidence in what Marshawn Nealon and Chauncey Golston, I assume that's going to be the 1-2 punch, should be able to produce. Is it going to be at Micah and D-Law's level? Absolutely not. There's going to be some responsibility that falls on the second level, on the interior defensive line, even in the secondary. The rest of the defense is going to have to pick up the slack for sure. But you look at what Marshawn Nealon can do from a power perspective. I think there's some things that he can do in the run game that can kind of match what D-Law brings from a skill set standpoint. Is it as refined and as polished as what D-Law has brought in his 11 years in the NFL? Absolutely not. He's still a rookie at the end of the day, but he can kind of give you that big presence off the edge, kind of help conceal the edge. You look at Chauncey Golston, and I know we've talked about it quite a bit. I love Chauncey Golston way more as an edge, so I think this is going to really allow him to flourish and finally play the position that I feel like he's best at, and do it for a couple of weeks and stack some reps there. As far as what he could bring from a pass rush perspective, I mean, we're going to have to see. I do like his athleticism off the edge. I think he brings some power too, but all in all, it's going to have to be an all-out approach from those two guys, Tyrus Wheat, Carl Lawson, anybody else that they bring in. They're going to have to rotate bodies in. They're going to have to figure this thing out for at least a couple of weeks. My information kind of corroborates, and Bryan has a lot more, but it corroborates what he was saying as far as Micah probably not getting him back until after the bye week, and then as far as D-Law, looking like an IR stint there.
Yeah.
So.
This conversation is making my heart race very, very fast. I'm like starting to freak out because we already know the struggles that were there prior to these two injuries, very, very important injuries. And we've also seen that it's not just the pass rush or the defensive line, what they're doing there, but it's also what it creates for the rest of the defense. We've seen it with the linebackers. When the defensive line plays better, it allows your linebackers to be a lot better and execute those plays better. But it's just, I don't know how you get through it. I get it. People want to say, "Oh, next man up." Well, yeah, that's what happens in the game, next man up. But it's tough given all the struggles that they've already been having.
You need to find a way to turn the clock back for Carl Lawson a little bit.
Yeah.
You need. I mean, he's been kind of a spot player for you right now, and he should be ready to go. You know, we've been through now a month of the season, and he should be ready to go. Conditioning should be fine. You know, instead of playing, 15 plays, he needs to play. He's probably going to have to play 40 plays. You know, but they need him to kind of get back to that mode. I like what and I know you're going to go through some players, and I guarantee you that, these edges, Nealon is a guy you're probably going to talk about, and Nick, I think, gave a pretty damn good assessment of him as a player. And, this could be a great opportunity for him. It could be a great opportunity for Golston. They just can't afford anything else to happen to these guys. And it might even be to the point where we might see them bring somebody in and work somebody out, some of these defensive ends. I have this group I called my Gang of Seven, which are guys and gals around the league that are in player personnel departments. And, I'm trying to get them to say, okay, give me all your best practice squad poachers. If you have to go poach a guy off a practice squad, it's never a bad thing because those guys are playing. Those guys are practicing. Those guys are, so if you could find that guy, that would be better than, because I need guys that can play right now. I don't need somebody that's been at home and hasn't done anything, and then all of a sudden you have to ramp them up for 3-4 weeks and you don't get what you need out of it. But I would consider poaching a guy off somebody's practice squad. If you identify maybe a young player, somebody like that, you kind of said, hey, we like this guy in college. He's at the Buccaneers. Can we go get him, put Tank on IR and then go get, go poach one of these guys? This is where it can kind of be, for a personnel guy, could be a little fun, hey, we got to figure out something here. Let's figure out the best options here. And their pro department does a pretty damn good job. Yeah. So that's the route I think they might go.
To that same point, I had a conversation in the last few days, and it was saying that, we're having to put trust into Marshawn Nealon and into Chauncey Golston, but we're putting trust into Will McClay because that was a guy that they wanted to go get in the second round last year. Okay, now he's going to need to be stepping into a starting role,
right.
And the trust is really falling on McClay and his department, as Bryan says here, to be able to identify that pick and hope that he can step in and be ready to play in a situation like this.
Yeah, I think for me, when I look at this, the first question obviously becomes, how do you generate pressure? I think Marshawn Nealon can be fine on the edge playing against the run. I think Golston can do the same thing. I just don't know if you've got anybody that's really going to scare another team when it comes to the pass rush. Yeah. And so this is where, and I'm not sure this is Zimmer's game. I know he likes to run the A-gap, B-gap blitzes. Yeah. But really, I think if you're going to generate pressure, you're going to have to bring pressure from a lot of different places, whether it's linebackers. Do you line up overshown on the outside and rush it from the outside? Do you send corners? Do you send safeties? Like, you're going to have to do a lot of creative stuff. And I don't know if is that Zimmer's defense. Does he have that kind of thing in his defense?
We saw the other day the Giants had a play where they actually made – it was a pretty good play, but they picked up Jordan Lewis on the blitz. Mm-hmm. It was a slot blitz. Yep. So, you know he's got that in the bag of tricks to try and – but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's going to be about, finding Kendricks, and trying to get to these guys, get to Kendricks. They need to get healthy in the secondary, though, too. Yeah. It's a lot easier to send people and blitz people and stuff like that when you're not playing with your fourth or fifth corner.
Facts.
And
leaving those guys on an island.
I don't think you're going to get Bland back this week. We'll see what happens in, Detroit and beyond.
Is that the 6-week mark now, or what is it?
4-week mark, but 6 weeks since he had the surgery. Yes.
Yeah. So there, but he's coming along really well. I was just told it's not going to be this week. So, maybe get him back for Detroit. But if you know that you can cover with, Diggs, you can cover with Bland, you can cover with Lewis, it kind of makes up a little bit for the stuff. Then now you can take some chances with your linebackers and group like that.
Maris Luafau a year ago at Notre Dame, 3 sacks. I think that's an interesting guy that they can
another guy maybe
from a pressure perspective. Yeah. We talked about it here on the draft show. He's a situational third down pass rusher, and he can get to the quarterback. And if he's not sacking the quarterback, he's at least generating pressure and altering the play.
Overshown too.
I think that's a guy.
If you watched him at Texas, was a little bit some. Former safety and all that, but man,
they rushed him from the outside a lot.
Yeah. Just anything you could do to create opportunity for your guys. That's what you got to do, and but a lot of it is covering on the back end. If they don't do that well enough, blitzing ain't going to matter.
I know this isn't going to happen, but he did run a 3-4 when Bill was here. And maybe morph a little bit and kind of get some of those linebackers on the outside rushing that way, rather than having them, having to try to put their hand on the ground or try to figure out another way to get them around that edge. But that's the part I'm concerned about. I'm really concerned about how they're going to get pass rush, especially in situations where you play teams that have some really good quarterback receiver combinations. I think you're going to have some of those here in the next several weeks.
And I wonder how much trust there is in Mozzie Smith after the performance.
That's what I was going to say too. Yeah,
because if let's say that they were to move to a 3-4 to just kind of help the defense out a little bit, then you're putting a lot of trust into Mozzie to be able to control those gaps.
Really hold on those
running lanes. Exactly. Yeah. So
I
wonder how much. Absolutely.
No,
it was his best game as a pro.
By far.
His best game as a pro on Thursday night, and you could tell after in the locker room, that's about as upbeat and the most words I've heard from Mozzie Smith since he's been here. So
it was actually good to see.
It was phenomenal to see.
You could see.
Absolutely.
He gets beat down, man.
You could see the level of pressure kind of be lifted for a little bit. And obviously, it's week to week in the NFL. You come back, have a bad game next week, and it's all back. But it was good to see him in that moment. It really
we got 13 more of these, Mozzie. Let's go. Saddle up.
No doubt. All right, we're going to take our first break. We're going to come back. We're going to come back. We're going to get to the first quarter recap, first quarter of the season, that is, not the first quarter of the game. We'll do that when we come right back. It's the DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code Cowboys VIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code Cowboys VIP.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said the LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're presented by Blockchain, or this segment's presented by Blockchain. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some player evaluations. I'm going to run down a list of names, and for each name, I want you guys to tell me what you like that you've seen so far in the first quarter, and where do you think their biggest need for improvement is. All right, so let's start first with probably the guy that, in my opinion, on the offense has gotten probably more talk than most, Tyler Guyton.
Yeah.
Nick.
Tyler Guyton. Through for the first 4 games, I think having the context of how he has come into the year is really important. Only having 14 college starts, at being on the right side. Yes, he was still protecting a blind side of a quarterback, but moving to the left side, there's still some things to work out in that kind of situation. And I think, if we call back to training camp in those first couple of days, he was just beating Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence over and over again. And everybody was like, oh my goodness, we already got another all-pro Hall of Fame left tackle. I was like, look, the bumps and bruises are going to come along the way. And I think we're starting to see those bumps and bruises. And I think you just ride the wave with Tyler Guyton, and I think more importantly, if Tyler Guyton rides the wave of Tyler Guyton, he's going to be all right, especially once you get to the end of the season and he's literally doubled his amount of career starts. I think by whenever you're looking up in December, he's going to be a lot more refined. But I think as far as immediate correction needs to be on the holding penalties. It has to be on the discipline stuff. I know it's kind of a factor of him getting beat around the edge with his feet, and he needs to get out of his stance a little bit quicker against some certain guys. And as a result, he's been hooking some guys. I think if he can just kind of whittle that down a little bit, then he could start getting back on that progression upswing, and I think it'll work out just fine for him. As I've said from the beginning, we're going to look up at the end of the rookie season with all these first-round picks. We probably won't be talking about Tyler Guyton as one of the best first-round picks of the year, but I think when we look up 3-4 years from now and those guys are starting to get their fifth-year options, he's going to be one of the most no-brainers to get that fifth-year option. I think his development is just going to go up.
Yeah, all in all, I think he's been all right. Now this last game, I mean, the penalties came big into play, and that's something that he's gonna have to be very, very mindful and learn where to do it. Everyone does it. Everyone holds. So just figure out how do you hide that a little better to where the officials are not calling a flag on you. But he's the type of guy that is very, very dedicated into the game. He will put in the work. That comes out of his mouth, anytime I've heard him speak, it's football, 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 study, learn, practice. So I believe that this is something he's going to look back into this past game, and he's going to keep working on improving week after week. But I would say that just finding that comfort and just believing in his strength. He's such a tall guy, and he's very powerful. So I think if he works on his, how do I say this? This is going to sound weird.
Lower body strength?
Yes.
Core?
I was going to say spreading his legs, right? No, but that sounds terrible.
Footwork.
I still said it.
Yeah.
But the stance, basically, the stance where
true.
his feet just kind of plank on there. Yes, that. I need to improve my vocabulary. But yes, just working on his stance, and I think he will get the job done. It's just part of where he's at in his career right now.
It's amazing to me. They've thrown him in the deep end of the pool and said swim.
Yeah. Especially his last game.
I mean, they don't even give him one of those little orange life jackets you wear when you were a kid. Around your neck. It was embarrassing. It was so big you didn't want to wear it.
They did the old school swimming lessons. Yeah. There you go. Figure it out.
It is. It is like sometimes he goes all the way to the bottom. He touches and he bounces back up to the top. But yeah, it's they've got to figure out ways to give him a little bit more help if they can. There's gonna be some games coming up here, and he's already faced some guys that can rush the passer. And if you continually have him single block 89, 90% of the snaps, I get it, man. I mean, hey, good for him, but you're also crushing him in a lot of ways to where people are getting film on. Okay, take him hard inside, take him to the edge. Beat him when he's in this stance. So he's going to break him down this way. There's guys that are getting a lot of film, and my man is in some survival mode. Really, the ball it's snapped to Dak, and it's survival mode ball. And that's inside. Cooper Beebe, this last game, he was double team blocked 80% of the time. He was getting help, but Lawrence is a good player, actually a great player for the Giants. So I just kind of feel like you've got to find some ways to kind of mix it up and help and not let everybody just have a free rush on him until he figures out the stance, the feet, the hands, everything about him needs to kind of be working. But you see it at times. There can be times when he's really good at it. And then there's times where it's like, oh, damn, here comes survival mode. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, the kid's tough, and he doesn't back down. And he's getting better, though, when he knows it might be holding. He kind of puts his hands up. He like falls on the guy and kind of puts his hands up so the officials don't call it. But he gets his body positions bad at times, and he just got a lot of improvement he needs on that. But they got to help him a little bit.
Yeah, you mentioned his name, but let's move on to Cooper Beebe.
Yeah, Cooper Beebe, I think whenever you look at his first 4 games and you look at the stats on PFF about pressures allowed and sacks allowed and things like that, he looks absolutely phenomenal. He has been great, but I think there are still some things in the running game that he's going to have to work on. I think
as you watch the game, right? Like they're just things you're like, he's not as great as his stats
Lawrence
look,
beat him
but
up a few times. Dexter Lawrence beat him up a few times. The stats do not show it, and hey, whenever you are a starting center, sometimes you're able to get away with those things a little bit easier than others, just because the nature of the defensive tackle position and what success actually looks like from that position just looks a little bit different from the rest of the 11. But I think from a Cooper Beebe perspective, I love what he's done in pass pro. I think in run block, there just has to be a little bit of correction that's going to have to be applied. And we talked all year last year about how the guys up front were a big catalyst towards the run game not being as productive as it could have been. I think as a unit, all 5, when you look from a run blocking perspective, it has been better, but there are still some guys that can improve a lot. And I think Cooper Beebe is probably suspect number 1 in that instance, just because what his development will look like whenever he does get to his max level of progression. So I think there is still some learning going on with the center position specifically in run block. I think from a pass pro perspective, though, he has exceeded my expectations. I think he's been really strong in the middle. He's created a really great depth of pocket for Dak Prescott, and I think that's only going to improve as his time gets more in depth.
The way the Cowboys run the ball, he's got to be better. And I mean better because I think there's been times where he has been better. Some of their bigger runs are him and Martin or him and Smith push the middle, and then the ball cuts behind them. Because it doesn't look like to me, nothing on the outside for the Cowboys or nothing outside the tackle. It always seems like it's in between either the tight end to the center box, and that's where they try and kind of take the ball inside and cut it from that. But
it was that one run on Thursday night where Rico, and I think it was Beebe, Smith, and Guyton just kind of pushing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Rico had a huge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They even the run that Zeke got called back where they had 2 holdings on the play. They had Tyler Smith and Beebe both, which I thought were questionable calls. But still, that the run part of it, that's how they're going to need him and those guards to do it, because any other way of running the football, we just haven't seen it. We just haven't seen the be able to create. They haven't got the ball to the edge with any effectiveness, unless it's a jet sweep or something like that. But they're going to need him to be a little bit better inside. The pass blocking stuff has actually been really, really, really good, because I was surprised of make a call, make the snap, find out where you need to go. And he's doing all that pretty well right now. He did have the problems with when the twist stunts where you pass and he would get too engaged. And when you become so engaged, that allows the looper to come around. And he got better at just getting rid of that guy and then being there ready for the looper to come around. So he's going to see more of that. People are going to run twist stunts inside and stuff, and he's going to have to be able to handle that.
You mentioned the word surprising, and I think an extra surprise element is the fact of the system he came from at Kansas State being so run dominant and just loading up and 12 and 22 personnel and just running the ball downhill, that he's been so great in pass pro.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't pass the ball at Kansas State. I mean, they spread it out. Chris Kleeman does a good job of being able to get those receivers involved too, but it's pretty surprising how well he's been able to pick up the pass block.
Yeah, I think, and this is now a shot to Broaddus. Broaddus.
Yes.
That's how you say it.
He's on a 3-1 team right now.
He's actually looked pretty good, too.
I was about to say, he actually has been pretty good from what I've seen. Yeah.
But no shot to him. I actually love him. I love the guy. But I think that in the long run, this has been an improvement for the position. I think that next year is when you're going to start seeing Beebe really grow into what he's supposed to be. He's a big guy, and he has the power, but that jump from year 1 to year 2 where they just gain so much more strength and muscle mass. And I think that's something that he lacks at times, for sure. The blocking for the running game, but also it seems to be a collective problem here, where it's not just one person messing it up. It's something that everybody along the line needs to improve on.
If I ask you guys to rank the offensive linemen 1 to 5 as far as how well they've played so far during the first quarter of the season, how would you rank them?
I would say Tyler Smith 1, Beebe 2, Martin 3, Steele 4, and Guyton 5.
Yeah, I'd probably have the same ranking. I was between Guyton and Steele there at 4 and 5, but you're right. Steele's had a couple of really solid games, so yeah, I'd give the edge to Steele.
Yeah, same. I like it.
That's kind of interesting to me, because I would have thought maybe Steele got a little more love, because I think some of the games he's played well. He's played really well. Now he's also had some games where it's like,
oh no, we always talk about Steele riding the roller coaster at Six Flags.
Yeah, no doubt.
Clackety, 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 clackety.
He's a serviceable right tackle.
Oh,
yes,
no,
he's a
serviceable right tackle.
And when he's on, he's really on.
Oh
like,
no, there
really
are games where you go back and you watch him play, but there's like we always talk about, grade the 65 plays, and then there's the 2 plays where you're like, oh damn, he gave up a sack.
Yeah,
now, he was on a pace there for giving up a sack a game, and then he kind of curtailed that a little bit. But
well, the thing for him is like, you've seen him be really, really good, so you expect more from him. He's been here a while now. Also, he's a whole year out from the injury that he had. I mean, last year, that's where you could blame some of those issues that he had. But now, and him speaking himself, even at training camp, saying like this is the best he's ever felt, you just expect him to be a lot more solid. But I absolutely love him. I was criticizing Mike McCarthy back in the day. Remember when we were doing those shows and we were like, what is happening here? They believed in him, and I think he definitely earned his spot. And but yeah, he just needs to be a little bit more consistent.
I didn't influence you guys with Martin at 3, did I?
Well, see, that's where I was just about to go. I was going to say, if for those out there listening, that was not a mistake. You said Beebe was 2.
I'd say
and
Beebe
you put Martin at 3.
Yeah.
How does that? I mean, like, why? What have you seen from Zack Martin that will make him the 3rd?
He looks mortal.
He does.
He looks very mortal.
There have been 2 or 3 moments in almost every game when you're like, oh, he's
He looks very
old.
The problem that Zack.
Be respectful. Okay,
I'm just being honest.
Be respectful.
No, the bar has for so many years has been so high that when you see, and you see a little bit more breaking down. You see guys breaking him down a little more, and you never saw that. So to me, and I like what Beebe has done. I think there's stuff in the running game and that he can get better at. But I'm happy with the way he's played. But I guess it's just with me, with Zack Martin, there's been things that he looks just mortal. Yeah. He looks like a guy that all of a sudden he gets pushed back. And, in the New Orleans game, he gets pushed back in the pocket and they slap the ball out of Dak's hands and now it's on the ground and Tolbert has to run over and cover it, right down. That was Zack Martin getting walked.
First play from scrimmage of the season. Dak got whacked. And it was a guy beating Zack Martin. I don't remember who it was. Beating Zack Martin in pass protection. I think on that same note, Zack Martin has still been solid. Yeah. I think all 5 guys have had their moments, but I think when you look at Tyler Smith and Cooper Beebe's case so far, those guys have played at Pro Bowl levels, and I feel that way about Cooper Beebe too. I don't feel like Zack Martin has really reached that. I think he'll end up getting the Pro Bowl, but I haven't seen that from him so far.
Yeah, that's what's rough about it is you'd go a whole season or half a season and not see Zack Martin give up a play. And so now when you're seeing it more regularly, multiple times through the first quarter of the season, it is a bit jarring when you look up and you're like, oh, Dak got hit. Oh, that was Zack.
Yeah.
That's the part I think that's just, it probably stands out a little bit more than even other offensive linemen because you're just not used to seeing it. Yeah. All right, let's take our
That's why these ratings are, you can't be fully fair because you're giving these ratings based on individuals and where they're at in their career. But yeah, it's just, man, this might be it.
We will see. All right, let's take our final break. We will come back. We got a few more names. We're going to get to some of these names. We're going to have to push them till tomorrow, but we'll get to as many as we can. Let's keep moving. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. You might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a Pepper thing.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything. Bang! Sorry, I had to. I had a sliver of a moment. I had to get in.
Amber's still on the mini buy. We apologize.
I
said go.
She'll be back going tomorrow. It's okay.
Well, that's the easiest read. So
it is.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, I had it memorized. Don't worry about it.
All right, let's jump back in. Let's jump back in. Let's get to some more names. Let's go with Hunter Lipkey, just for Nick, since he was Johnny on the spot there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
What has he done wrong? No, I love the integration that Mike McCarthy has put Hunter Lipkey into in this offense going into this year. A receiving weapon, and I don't think I anticipated that being the case after the situations that they put him in during his rookie season. But I think if you call back to some of the great moments he had in the preseason last year, and specifically that Raiders game at home, I believe he had somewhere around 75 receiving yards, had the receiving touchdown where he hurdled a guy. He can be a weapon in the receiving game. He has a route running tree. It was developed at North Dakota State. He comes out of the backfield. They've lined him up at tight end. That corner route that he ran against Kyle Hamilton in the Ravens game, I mean, that was what a tight end does, and he was able to get some separation and hold that in. Typically, when the ball is thrown his way, he's hauling it in. And so I think if he's developed more as a receiving weapon, that can kind of open up this offense. I'm not there yet, but I'm close to just making the proclamation. Give the ball to Hunter Lipkey 15 times a game. I'm very close to making that proclamation because he's going to be
I don't see that as a problem.
I don't either.
He's going to be a guy that can give you 4 yards per carry.
I don't see that as a problem.
Basis.
He's always going to fall forward. He's always going to find – he's got a feel for how to get through tight spaces. He's got really good balance. He's tough. You know, the whole thing everybody will bring up the thing that what happened to him in Miami. You know, unfortunately, it happens. Yeah. It happens to a lot of them. I'll tell you this: I think he's one of your 3 best offensive players. Yep. When you start to name the best offensive players, Hunter Lipkey needs to be in that top 3 or 4 names. He is a weapon in every sense of the word. His ability on that 4th down play to what happened the very next play. You score a touchdown. They throw the ball to Lamb, and it's a 50-something yard touchdown pass. He had a 3rd down catch that got 11 yards. That next play, touchdown. This guy, all he does for you is make plays. He had 3 special teams tackles too. He plays a ton in these games. Never comes off the field in a lot of these circumstances. But when you start to say, who are the Dallas Cowboys' 3 best offensive players? I'd put Hunter Lipkey in that rule. Through 4 weeks of watching football right now, I'd put him in as one of your top 3 players.
He's not going to be the guy to break away for a 60-yard touchdown if you do give him the bulk of the running back responsibilities.
But you ain't got one of those.
That's what I was about to say. It's not like you got him on the roster already. Right. So you may as well give it to the guy that can at least get you 4 yards a carry.
No doubt.
Well, when he first got here and that Nick was all in love and started printing pictures and hanging it up all over his wall.
He had the little googly eyes.
Yeah, little hearts around it.
Still do.
I'm like, what?
Ain't going anywhere.
I was just like, okay. But then I started falling in love too, and I started seeing the beauty. He's a true professional.
Yeah.
And when you see him, he's always laser focused. Mm. And that's a guy that my only thing right now is that they're not playing him enough. I want to see him more on offense. He hasn't made any big mistakes or anything. Yeah. Everything that he's done, he's been very, very productive. So that's the only thing is just get the ball to him a lot more.
And I'll say this, I think you talk about him running, but I think he's the best pass catcher out of the backfield the Cowboys have. There was one catch he made this last game over the middle.
Yeah.
That's a receiver type catch. Yeah. That's not a typical running back type catch because it was a tough catch. There was a guy kind of on him, and he used, it was a hands. This was a type of catch where I'm like, that's what I want to see. And that's why I think he's kind of solidified the role as a 3rd down back. He has that role that's his thing at this point. And I think it's because he can pick up the blitz. He can also sneak out and get you some yards in the passing game.
Everyone's talking about him being a little Mike Allstott, like that's been thrown around the locker room. You may as well just give him 100 touches in the season.
You know what?
Because that's what they did with Allstott, and it worked out.
I lived the nightmare of Mike Allstott when I was in Green Bay. Hunter Lipkey's got more balance and more lateral quickness. Mike Allstott was a downhill.
He was a big dude.
Yeah, he was tough. Yeah. Him, Christian Okoye, those guys like that back in the day, you just bounce off them. This guy's got the ability to get out like Derek was talking about, get out in the flat, soft hands. Been able to. He doesn't fight the ball. He catches it. You put somebody on him, he get away. He breaks tackles. He has bounce. There's all this. Mike Allstott was a hell of a football player. Don't get me wrong. But, man, I think this guy's got more athletic ability than Mike Allstott had.
Yeah. For those out there that are younger that may not have seen Mike Allstott,
Google him up. Google him up.
You'll see. There's some really good plays out there where you're like, wow, he's impressive.
He's banged off people when he was rushing. When he was running the ball. It's a hard guy to tackle. Seriously, he's boom, boom, just banging around.
Let's try to get one more guy here before we end the show. Give me Kaylin Carson. He missed this last game. A guy that's kind of been, he's been challenged a little bit in those first 3 games. What do you think as far as what do you like from him, and where do you think he's got to improve?
Let me tell you something real quick about him. I hate this for him, but he's one of these guys that I don't think things bother him. When it comes to giving up a play or every time that something bad has happened to him, it's like the next 6 plays are really, really good for him. He had the deal where he missed the tackle and they got it. The Saints got a huge gain out of it, and it was a bad play. But he's one of these guys. He challenges you. He's willing to tackle. I think he's physical. I just hate the fact that it takes a bad play for him to kind of get going. It's like he misses a tackle and now he's having to, like, the next 6 tackles are like all good tackles. Like he remembered how he's supposed to tackle. Not go high, wrap him up, stay, get a shoulder in there. But the coverage stuff it's learning. I mean, it is so much learning for him. And, I think he's better when he can play tight. When he plays back, I don't think he has a chance. I really, really don't. I don't know if the quickness of the foot speed is there. And I think that when he can maintain contact with a receiver is when he's a better player. And I'd like to see him play more in those kinds of roles. I have really, really high hopes for him. I have high expectation. I think he's a really good player because I love how physical he is for a corner. Sometimes these corners want nothing to do with being physical. They don't want anything to do with tackling or anything. No, this kid gets it. If he makes a mistake, he's gonna come back. The next 5 plays are all going to be good plays for him.
And I think there is still room for him to grow physically.
Absolutely.
To get more physical and to step up and make those plays in the run game. And that tackle on Rashad Bateman, just pushing him to the sideline. You got to be more physical there. But I think all in all, when you factor in he's a 5th-round rookie who was asked to step in on 2 weeks' notice and start the first 3 weeks of the season now, I guess we'll anticipate 4 of the first 5. It's been serviceable, and I think you take that 10 times out of 10. He's as far as exceeding expectations, he's been my easy rookie of the year so far for this draft class.
Yeah, I agree. He's been pretty solid given the circumstances and where he was drafted and everything. And my thing with when you were talking about speed, and sometimes there is a big separation, but at the same time, what I give him grace in that aspect is like everybody else is doing the same thing. Like he's not the one standing out. Everybody on defense is also collectively doing that as well. So I give him some grace in that aspect. I think he's a guy like you said, Bryan. He makes a mistake and he comes right back up. It doesn't mentally affect him, which is something big when you're asking a young guy to be mature, mentally mature, to be able to forget that play, keep going on to the next. And again, remembering that this is a tough position to play when you come in. Most of the time, you're on your own. It's you and the receiver, figure it out. And I think all in all, he's done a pretty solid job. I really, really like him. Obviously, there's going to be mistakes, and they're going to continue to happen, but I think he's going to be a very good guy for this
Can I ask
defense.
a Tuesday question right now?
Sure.
What is it going to take to get John Stevens active?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I would love to see it. But honestly, with these issues that you're going to have on defense, the way I look at this is maybe the best thing you can do is try to figure out how you can score more points on offense. Now that's going to require your offensive play caller maybe changing up how he looks at the game. It may also mean having to get a guy like John Stevens active because he can give you a little bit more, and maybe you can track that running back room a little bit as far as the guys that are active. Maybe instead of having Deuce out there, maybe you make John Stevens active. Maybe that's the answer. I'm not sure.
I'm curious because the span forward thing I don't see, but that's why I'm got a mic and I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I don't see it. I'm not in that room. But John Stevens, it's every week, John Stevens is now becoming a healthy scratch for this team. And I think there's something about him that could just give me maybe a little bit more than what I'm getting from Spanford, maybe a little bit more than I get from Luke Schoonmaker.
Yeah.
I'm flipping the two for these 2 weeks before the bye. If it were me, I'm activating John Stevens Jr. and activating Brevin Spanford just to see what he can do, see what he can bring from an offensive perspective in the pass game, because you need the defense to step up, and the best defense is a good offense. So you may as well give it another receiving option.
Yeah. What are we hearing about Kaylin Carson right now?
Sounds like he's going to be good to go this week. There's more passing that he'll have to do as far as on-field work. I believe that's starting on Wednesday. But nevertheless, it sounds good that he'll be ready to go for the Pittsburgh game.
That's a good thing for them. They'll need that body.
Absolutely.
All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to continue our player evaluations. We got a lot more players we'll get through. Till then, for Nick Harris, for Bryan, Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!